Today, we continue our talks with inspiring women, not only from our countries, not only from our continent, but also around the world, around the globe, from different continents, different cultures, different nations. And today, I have a very special guest speaker. She's from Uganda. This is Dr. Lina Zedriga Varo Abuk, who is a renowned activist, human rights fighter, politician, a mother, and a grandmother. Welcome, Dr. Lina.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for your patience, because I remember we've been scheduling this meeting and we both look forward to it. I am very excited, and on behalf of the women of Uganda, I send you all the greetings and the love and solidarity, especially in our struggles. Thank you so much for having this space and us to hold sisterly conversations. Thank you, Veronica.
Yes, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to talk to you today, Dr. Lina. Let me just give some background about you, because when I read your biography, I was impressed with your biography. I was impressed with your background, because you are a secretary of Uganda National Committee for the Prevention and Punishment of Genocide and Mass Atrocity Crimes and all forms of discrimination. You are a director of Women, Peace and Security Regional Associates for Community Initiatives. You're also a lawyer, a practicing attorney, educator on leadership, and a mentor. And in addition to this, you are the director of Women in Peace Building and Reconciliation. And you're actively involved with the Forum of Democracy and Women. So my question to you, Dr. Lina, would be, why did you choose the path of protecting women, standing for women's rights? Why are women?
Yeah, thank you so much. The reason why this path for women protection, women peace and security, prevention of all sorts of violence and discrimination and exclusion from the of women. I was born and raised in West Nile, that is in Uganda, born in 1961, 8th of September. And by the time, during our time, my generation, we were only raised for marriage. Women were not allowed to go beyond primary education. Once you got your period, you were ready for marriage. So that discrimination, as my two elder brothers were allowed to go to school freely, I was always being cautioned and cushioned. However, my mother, may her soul rest in peace, was very keen on education. In fact, I owe a lot of my education. I owe it all to my mother and, of course, then to my father. So the struggle for me was right from the back. The struggle was right through primary education. By the time I finished P7, I was the only girl in a class of over 67 pupils. The rest had dropped out of school. So I studied and sat that primary living education on behalf of the other 50 plus girls that had dropped out of school to get married. Then I was the first girl in my village and my county to go to to high school. So for me, the struggle was throughout. It is my life.
Why do you think your parents, who were supposed to raise you as an ordinary, Ugandan girl, decided that you need to go and get a degree, education, primary education at least?
My mother, Magdalene, was married to a vernacular teacher, a teacher for the school one. That was always what she was saying. I did not know how to read, but I want you to read and be my eyes. So for her, it was a personal, I believe it was even her religion, being a Catholic, and I believe she was influenced by that religion and the religious practice. Encouraged me to study and be a professional woman. And she felt she owed it to me to ensure that I was an educated woman.
May I ask you a question? Because I know that you have 5 children. You lost your husband because he was a politician as well. So he disappeared back in 2001. How did you manage, to become a politician, to be a mother of 5, to be a human rights activist, to be a women's defender?
Yeah, thank you so much. My husband, he is a missing person. He is a missing person. So we actually even haven't had any conclusion. So for 20 years. And he was somebody who encouraged me in terms of studying, because we married when I had just finished my first profession, that was education. Then I went immediately to study law, and then I was having the children, 5 of them. Yes, he supported me so much. He even paid some of the school fees, and he believed, because he comes from a big family, also because of personal experiences of where as an educated firstborn from the mother side, because both of us come from polygamous families, he saw the burden, and he was always telling me, I would like you to be prepared to be independent in case I die before you. I do not want my children to suffer. So that was his drive, being the responsible person, paying school fees for all the brothers and sisters who have now become professional. And so for him, he really saw very far. 1, 2, he engaged so much in issues of women's struggle, and he worked with NGOs and was a social worker. So he saw the realities, and in practice encouraged me so much to study, so much, including even paying school fees for me at one time to do French and stuff. He always would take care of the children. Yeah, for that I'm blessed, to have had him support me so much.
But how did you decide to go with the politics? Because I know first you were mostly focusing on human rights, on the defending of women, children, orphans. I know that you have several children which adopted. How did you decide to become a politician?
Yes. First, I thought to solve or to really have women in places of decision making, I needed to be a teacher, teach the girls, inspire them. But I saw there was still a gap. Then there was all this domestic violence, discrimination. I said, no, I need to do law and become a judicial officer or a judge. But then I saw there was still powerlessness, because these powerful men were beating up their wives and hiring lawyers and getting off the hook. Then I saw the mischief is in politics. So in 2014, then I became a very active politician. I even ran for member of parliament. And then I saw the women's struggles even within the political parties, the discrimination, the intimidation, and then I said, okay, let me leave it alone and go back to the village, the drawing. So mine was always to address that gap of women in decision making, women with a voice, women speaking up in public spaces. And then in 1994-95, during the time of the promulgation of the Constitution, 1995 Constitution, I saw the results of when women come together. The Article 32 about affirmative action, Article 33 about the rights of women. We would not have seen it. So I felt, I was inspired that I want to create more. I believe my life is like a candle. We need to light more candles. We need to keep lighting, even cross-generationally, to have more women in all political spaces. I believe in feminist leadership and politics. So those are the things that were inspiring me. My upbringing and the real challenges of being a wife and also a mother. And my culture, women don't own anything. Women do not own property in my culture.
Even now nowadays.
So my generation, many of them, but now, because I have the power, I have the bit of the economic muscle, I've bought land and in the names of my daughter. In fact, recently, when I was having the land title in the names of my dad, the local council, LC3 chairman, said, no, you can't have the names, your daughter, it has to be your son. And I we struggled. I'm telling you. Even there's the Prime Minister, late Nsibambi of Uganda, the whole country, he had daughters only. So he bequeathed his property to the daughters. The clan disregarded his will at that level.
I know that you've been a man, many kinds, you've been a trainer, women, member of parliament. So I know that you have a good connections. You've been a teacher. You've been yourself. You know, big example. But at the same time, you are a mentor for them. What do you usually teach them when you get engaged with the higher profile women, like member of parliament, politicians? Like, what would be your advice to them? How would you inspire them?
My advice is society should not define any of these women. Society defines us as powerless, as voiceless, as in fact, even there's a judgment where there was a judge who said a woman who is married, a woman in marriage cannot be a competent witness. You know that the traditional marriage is like an unfair bargain between the father of the daughter of this woman and then the husband. The marriage makes us in our culture. Now we are breaking it. Now we even went to court and the bride price issues have been declared unconstitutional. So my socializing them, my engagement with them is to find their own identity, to speak loud, to be knowledgeable, to consult, to work together, and to stand very firm, even against all. Sometimes they get excluded. Some of them, their husbands are made to push them into submission. A number of them. So my advice is, please, the person who doesn't respect you enough to accept you to be who you are doesn't deserve you. So you continue, be strong, be firm. That has always been my conversation with them. Otherwise, they drop their passion. Yeah, they drop because the socialization. Yeah, and sometimes the peer pressure. So no. You now cannot stand run for this office. You see, you are going to lose this opportunity of being a married or a Mrs. Somebody. To hell with it. If it has to erase my identity, we have to be very strong. That's what I always tell the women, okay? That be strong.
Now let me ask you a question. To become successful as a professional, as a woman, because as you said, many countries, even in many modern countries, women is considered to be as a mother, as a wife, but not as a profession. So what would you suggest to women who are seeking for themselves, who are seeking to become a professional, who are seeking to become, successful in their career and life? Because for many women, the professional skills are very, very important. What your advice would be to them?
Well, my advice for the women is, first of all, your own passion and your own identity and your own priorities. Because when you compare or when you go in profession and then into nurturing, the maternal role, quite often we get left behind. Quite often we've missed out on very critical women who would be very, very far. And quite often it is not their choices. Quite often they are pushed, So my advice is, listen to your heart. Listen to what your passion is. And it's very critical. You owe it to the next generation. You owe it to, and two, I am an example. 5 children, all raised up, and the last one now is in the university. You can multitask. You can do it. You don't have to exclusively live advancing in your profession to stay maybe for 5-7 years to raise children. No, you can multitask. We have multitasked. Yeah, we have done that. So mine is get your priority. And for the young girls in the universities, I tell them, please, get your profession very solid. The rest will fall in line. Because if you do not, you drop out of school, you have nothing to your name, then you are going to be treated like, you know, like a second degree, you know, citizen, or like a property. So you need your voice, and you need your identity, you need your power. And what is it to be powerful? Your voice, your education, your resources. You need those identities. Absolutely. You are independent. Because we have examples of where women dropped out. Oh, I'm going to have my babies. And before we knew, the men are beating them, plucking off their eyes, their teeth, and saying, you are useless. We have those examples, you know? We have them here. So it's important for us.
My question, like many, this is what I hear, the feedback from many women, especially women with the children. Where to take the energy from? I have children, I have a house, home, I have a job, I have a husband to take care of, I have a family. I mean, I'm so tired. I have no energy for anything else left. Where to take the energy?
Veronica, for me, for our situation here in Uganda, the extended families and so on, like I had my mother who was there for me throughout because she was widowed young. So she was with me, I had that. But for the others, it's also about the self-care. You do not have to get a burnout and it's not about pleasing society. You know, it's not about pleasing. It's about making your contribution and loving what you are doing in all this multitasking, loving what you are doing and having time for yourself. The self-care is very important. It's very important because caring for this and the other, quite often the women drop almost, dead, Many have to be cancelled, but we do not have to reach there. We must schedule. When you schedule yourself and say, the 2 hours are for me to put up my leg and read a novel, don't feel guilty about it. Let the sink be high up to the mountains. Feel good because it is your time, it's your life. You need to schedule that. 2, you need to have a confidant. Veronica, you need somebody when it is too much emotionally, you can trust and offload and share with. Sharing an issue or a challenge is actually half the solution. You cannot, be hiding it. Then 3, if you are going through some not so good things like domestic violence or whatever, share it. Do not cover it up. What the mistake we do, some of us cover until it becomes now too much or too late. So we need to address these problems in a timely manner.
But Dr. Lina, let me ask you a question. Since you've been in politics, since you've been in a human rights fighter in Uganda for many years now, looking back and now, what can you say achievement? What have you achieved within these years when we talk about the fight for women's rights?
Yeah, fighting for women's rights, I can look back and see everywhere I am a reference point for when it comes to issues of women, peace and security, or the UN Resolution 1325. Everybody will say, oh, you are talking something about this, Lina is the authority. Then the women will be talking on TV and say, I was trained by Lina. This is a minister talking. We were on a panel together and say, when we are sharing this panel, I'm in the NRM, but I was trained by Lina. The art of speaking loud, the art of articulation, that I'm contributing as a human rights thing. It's not a favor people are doing to me to speak. So when everybody comes up to me and say, please sign my book here, for me, that is a very great, I have contributed to creating full of several generations of women in peace and politics, women in peace and security, women are in politics. Others are ambassadors now. I really feel good. Others are in the media. So that for me, I proudly walk with my head high to say, oh, so and so, yes, So for me, we contributed creating this community of practice of feminist leaders, women who are unapologetically practicing feminists in a community where, that time, standing up and saying, I'm a feminist, it will be like you are condemned to you'll be looked with rejection and so on. So we broke the ceiling, the glass ceiling, 1, 2. Also, I've been a lecturer to many, and mine has always been peace and security to human rights issues, and I've represented a number of women. I have contributed, among others, to this case of where the Supreme Court declared bride price unconstitutional.
Yeah, may I ask you a question? Who is your inspired leaders, female leaders, maybe not leaders, maybe writers, others? Who inspires you?
So my mother inspired me a lot and really made me look at glass ceilings and break them. Then my other the person who inspires me a lot is my headmistress. Another person who inspires me a lot is Mother Teresa, because I'm a practicing Catholic. I really look forward to the great things she did with the poor and standing up to those powers that wanted to stop her from, constructing the orphanage. Another one is St. Joseph in Pakita, the South Sudanese slave who ended up being the first nun in Europe. So those are women in their own world, but who broke glass ceilings, who were the first. So they inspire me a lot. And of course, Winnie Mandela also, in her own way, inspired me a lot in politics, the way she speaks.
Dr. Lina, let's talk now about let's touch some politics. As we agree that we're not going to talk about politics, but still sometimes, the politics in our lives. If we talk about what's happening right now in Ukraine, as you know, a lot of people, a lot of women, a lot of girls, civilians get stuck inside of the countries, and they have to survive. The bombing, the military men who are shooting, they have to survive for their future. What would you say to them? How would you encourage them to fight? What do you think about the entire situation? What's happening right now in Ukraine? The same situation, not the same situation, but very tough situation with Belarus women is happening in Belarus right now, because as we discussed during one of the online event with you, we have a lot of hundreds of political prisoners, female prisoners in Belarus, and these girls, women were illegally detained, and they have to survive as well. Some of them got, like my friend Maria Kolesnikova, who was with me in the presidential campaign, she got 12 years in prison for absolutely nothing. So what would you say women in a situation like this, in one case, when you talk about Ukrainian women, where they need to save their life, but on another hand, when we talk about Belarusian women who are kept in the prison for absolutely nothing?
I hear these stories. It drives me to the 4-5 times I myself was arrested because of politics. Yes. The last one, briefly, to share, what would I tell them? I will tell them what I live. On the 11th of November, last year, 2021, we were with my president, Bobby Wine, on a campaign trail, and I got abducted by military men and thrown on the back of a pickup. Very many, over 50 of them, men. There were no women. And this is a bush area. And then we were driven to police or militarized police post, thrown in jail with men, with men, Yes, the pictures are there. So, and when I asked, why are you arresting me? I was told I should keep quiet. I was being arrested to keep me alive. Otherwise, I was to be shot on sight. I was to be shot dead. And when I was imprisoned with men, overnight, given a basin to urinate in a corner, in the full view of all these men, I'm the only one. Well, how did I survive? My faith and resilience. The first thing I started doing was to pray. We must be belonging always to some kind of superior something that gives you power, that gives. Stella Nyanzi tells me she believes in her mother's teaching of holding your memories onto either a stone or something and then look into it. But you must have something you are clinging to. Okay, mine is my faith, my rosary. I started praying. 2, their connections. That's when the connections are very, 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 very critical. Then, of course, rape. Rape is a weapon of war. The girls here who were also abducted on the campaign trail, many of them were sexually gang raped. Okay? So mine is in the event they are sexually assaulted, or they must never bear the guilt. Do not have the guilt, because that is to remove your dignity and make you guilty and make you less human. Retain your humanness. Shift the guilt on this person who is or the team who have assaulted you. 1, 2. You are owing this to generations. You are paying the prison, being a prisoner of conscience, to generations and to other women. It's inspiring them. So be very resilient, because they will come with all kinds of negotiations. Here, for example, they do it in Uganda. They call it plea bargain. They will come with all kinds of things. Please accept. Please do not. Your innocence is very, very important. We stand with you, the women of Belarus, the women of Ukraine. We stand with you in solidarity. You are inspiring us. You are inspiring. We are a global community of sisters of practice. We are praying for you every day. We are raising your names high every day. And we are going to ensure that your suffering on behalf of the women of the world will not be in vain. You will be remembered. You are celebrated every single moment. Because in prison, they will want you to feel useless. Do not feel useless. You're very useful. You're very powerful. And that is why they'll put you in jail. You're a threat to them. And continue to do what you do best. Speak. Be resilient. Mentally remain. Do not break down. Don't. It's okay to cry.
Dr. Lina, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
You know that Belarus is a country with a dictatorship for the last 28 years. We've been fighting the dictatorship many, many years. Do you see any similarities between our country, Belarus, and Uganda? Uganda is in Africa. It's eastern part of the Africa. It's a different country. But still, can you see any parallels in our country?
Dictators, whether in Africa or in Europe or in Asia, they are dictators. Intolerant, they survive on brutality, they survive on intimidation, they survive and thrive on creating fear, they thrive on eliminating very strong opponents, they thrive on making sure that the other alternative voices are not visible anywhere. They are the same, So it is the same.
But how can we fight the dictatorship? Is there like a recipe? How to fight? How to end up the violence? How to end up, people suffering?
It takes time, but one of them is non-violent means, or it's about organizing strategically, organizing purposefully, organizing sustainably, organizing very smart, being very resilient and passing it, even if it means passing it to the other generation. We must be very, because these dictators will come and say, we want to buy you. And they have done that here successfully, by the way. They buy people off who have been very vocal. For example, we had Beatrice Anyoar, a very vocal mobilizer. She mobilized us against the issue of the protection of forests. They wanted to sell forests here. We were calling her Mama Bill. They bought her. She's now Minister of State for Environment. She's the one selling off the forest. Yes. Then we have people. There are many, and then others, of course, have been killed to silence them. But the resilience is now to speak out, to stay very safe. Today's reading was about how Jesus escaped and he was to be killed, but he escaped because that was not yet his. So we need to remain very tactful.
How can you speak up in our country? If you speak up, you end up either in the prison or in exile. You cannot survive with them, because otherwise you immediately, Lukashenko, he gets rid of the people who speak up. He gets rid of the strong people. How can you fight?
Yeah. Then in that case, the other thing is we must keep hope alive. The first issue for us is to keep hope alive. We must never give up. Never, 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 never. 1, 2. We must have our community of practice, associations. Even when you are out of Belarus, we must have that grouping continuously and pass messages in a very safe manner. We must continue to communicate our messages of hope and messages of liberation. We must never give that up. Never. 3, women. Women are usually, the ones most resilient, but also sometimes more, because of our nature, not sympathetic, but we want to preserve life. I want to say that. From me even. So we must make sure that we have key women and women-led voices, whether they're out of there or they're there. And then our agenda or protocols must be very clear for liberation. For liberation, whether it's Belarus or Uganda. My number 1 is hope. Hope, hope. Don't give up hope. Number 2 is organize very smart in whatever way we can. We must organize. Then 3, we let other countries. That's why we need allies to speak. Not necessarily the ones from Belarus, but our allies. Like, for example, we have people. And then we also have to strategically engage with the allies, like the EU Parliament. Like, we must continuously, expose these document the abuses, and with the time, if there will be a bulge, and of course, we will be able to build a bigger movement beyond Belarus, beyond Uganda. It will be global. We must have a global movement for democracy and voice to get rid of these dictators. We have to.
What do you think should happen to dictators? Because there are many opinions. Some people say that they need to be sent to the court. Some people say let them go and let them leave the country and live their life. We want to forget about these people's existence forever. What is your opinion?
Well, dictators have denied us, have robbed us of so many of our livelihoods and generations and society. And in my view, they should not go to be tried in the ICC. No. They should be tried within the countries. That is my view. They so that they really see. And then people also get to have a feel to remind them.
But in some countries, for example, Belarus, we are one of the last country in Europe which has still death penalty. And and many people say like Lukashenko, he committed a lot of crimes against humanity. He committed a lot of crimes against Belarusian people, and many people believe if alleged in Belarus, he will be sentenced to death because of his crimes. That's why some people suggest to send him, for example, to ICC, International Criminal Court, because it's independent court, because we want him to live and see how Belarus is going to thrive without him.
In my view, and we should get other opinions, but my experience, one time with the communities that have gone through a lot of this mass killings, and we were doing a research for the African Union, and we're like, okay, the person who has committed all these atrocities, Joseph Kony, is in that car. What would you do? I saw a woman saying, I'm going to get a knife, we're going to cut him into pieces, we are going to pound him in a mortar, We put salt, we share him. You know, we share his paste, his meat. Then the other children were saying, no, we want him to be put across, tied across on the road, and all the lorries that take merchandise to South Sudan for 2 weeks should pass over them. You know, those are things I did not even ever imagine. I did not ever imagine. So, in my view, it's not only us hurting. There are many other people hurting. But I would prefer, these people are not, these dictators are tried within the national justice system. Even in Uganda, we have the death penalty. How many people have they put to death? So many. So, in any case, the death penalty takes time. It's a process. We start with the High Court, and then the Court of Appeal, then the Supreme Court, and then there's a presidential pardon that may come in, and so it's not like when he's sentenced today, he's hanged immediately. That's not the process in Uganda. It takes years, and a number of people who are on death row have actually been given presidential pardons.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So your main advice to all the women who live in the countries where we have the dictatorship, just not to give up, hope, continue to fight, and believe in the future.
Yes.
It's very, very good words, very good advice.
Yes, absolutely.
Dr. Lina, I would like you to wish something to all Belarusian women. I would like to maybe say a couple of encouragement words to our women, because we've been fighting for so long. Sometimes we lose our hope. Sometimes we feel like we're exhausted. We do not have power to move on. We do not have energy to continue our fight. What would you say to all Belarusian women who do not give up the fight?
My sisters, my daughters in Belarus, I, Lina Zedriga from Uganda, I am 60 plus years old this year. I have been in the struggle for independence, the struggle for liberation, the struggle for peace and security for our children, for our families. It's not a one-night event. It is not an event. It's a life journey. We owe it to other generations. Do not give up. Do not. And I want to say that the world, where you see the world is seated, the world is sleeping over your realities in Belarus. Stand up as the women of Belarus, not physically, but in your spirit. When the world around you is standing up, be outstanding. And when the world becomes outstanding, even in that dictatorship, be the standard and set it very high. Talk to your other colleagues. Know that you owe it in trust. You owe it in trust for two categories of people. My sisters, you owe it to the unborn, and you owe it to the dead who tried and died liberating, getting the voices, getting human rights respected. And so it is a duty. It's not a favor. My sisters, it is a duty you owe to two categories of people, the unborn and those who have died, who have been murdered. And I know the success is in these two. Do not give up hope. We organize, and time is coming, and it is here.
Dr. Lina, thank you so much for this inspiring words. Thank you so much for your passion. Thank you so much for your energy. When I look at you, when I listen to what you say, it's really inspiring. It really gives the hope, to move on, not to give up, to continue to study, to continue to struggle, to continue to improve yourself for the future. For the future of our country, for the future of our children, for the future of this generation. That's why I would like to thank you so much for this very interesting conversation today. Thank you for your fight. We stand together with the women of Uganda. We are all, as you said, all in solidarity. And I'm sure that we are going to win. Thank you so much.
Yes, we are definitely going to win. And one of these days, we will be coming to Belarus. We will be celebrating. We will be dancing. We will be telling these stories by the fireplace. Thank you.
That's absolutely my dream. And it will be our pleasure. student Belarus. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you.